Hey, I'm Weekend Gabe, and you're checking out Weekend at Gabe's, and thanks for checking out this latest episode. While you're here, also follow us on these social medias at Weekend Gabe, at Weekend at Gabe's, and also at The Real Sam Crane. Thanks for checking us out. You're checking out Weekend at Gabe's with Weekend Gabe. The Real Sam Crane is joining me. And don't forget to give us a follow on these social medias at Weekend Gabe, at Weekend at Gabe's, and also at The Real Sam Crane. And joining us from somewhere in the city of Chicago, Defcee, one of my favorite MCs in the world, who is joining us now to talk about his new project, We Dress the City with Our Names. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. How are you guys doing?
I'm good. Did you enjoy that list of fuckery that we just ran through?
Man, it was extensive. It was like I just kept waiting for it to stop, and it just never did. No. And then it landed perfectly on the Bears potentially being the first Chicago sports team to represent Chicago in the suburbs.
Surely the Chicago Fire were first at Toyota Park.
That's right. They were out in Berwyn.
They were in. Yep.
Or I don't know what the fuck.
They were nope. They started in Soldier Field, correct. And then they went to
Harlem.
Park. Tinley Park, Toyota Park, or whatever it was.
I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, I am not in the city of Chicago.
Okay,
I'm in a suburb of the city of Chicago.
Sounds good.
Very important designation.
Yeah, especially in light of the news. You know.
No worry. Anyway, it was there was some good stuff in there. June 19th becomes a federal holiday, but also don't let people who killed their families also cross-examine the surviving children, and then ask them, did they hurt them, and then find out that you got stabbed. That shit is next level crazy. But welcome to America if you're broadcasting from outside of the country. But you got the new album out, We Dress the City with Our Names. The introduction is phenomenal because even before I read sort of the inspiration off the Bandcamp page, I immediately recognized the Style Wars clip, not Star Wars, Style Wars, which is a phenomenal documentary of hip hop and also graffiti writers. So the theme around the project itself is the art of writing. Well, I know that you guys you and Ad, you guys do the writing sessions with students and those who are looking to enhance their writing skills. But what made you want to focus on that theme exclusively for this project?
So when I initially had kind of picked the beats that August Fanon, shout out to August Fanon, had sent me originally, they were so good that I was intimidated. And so sometimes what I do when I'm intimidated or I'm blocked is I'll try to see if I can listen to something or watch something that's going to kind of break through that creative block. And so in this case, I knew Fanon did some collage work. He's designed some of his own album covers before. And the beats also kind of brought to mind like a lot of visual artists who I was a fan of. So in thinking about that, I tried to think about, okay, what's a movie about art that I think would maybe spark the creativity? And so I went and I watched Basquiat with Jeffrey Wright, which is a weird movie, but very good. And then I watched Style Wars next. And the thing that wound up happening was I didn't expect the film to really tie in beyond just kind of being a jumping off point for the writing. But as I was watching it, I started seeing parallels in that community of graffiti writers of that age. And it brought me back to when I was a kid in the Chicago hip hop and spoken word poetry scenes, and kind of that idea of, informal mentorship, or the idea of we're some of the only people who like what we like. So this is how we connect and get together. And then this is a way of us kind of communing and not feeling, like outsiders as much. You know what I mean? It's like our own little family of sorts. And so that kind of sparked from there the idea behind the project. We Dress the City with Our Names, being those of us who, at young ages, some of us were in documentaries, some of us were already published poets, some of us were getting scholarships for our work.
Right.
And so the idea of getting a name up, also that translating as well to like a lot of poetry and hip hop stuff. So that's kind of that was the jumping off point. And then, it really just kind of flowed pretty naturally from there.
Yeah. Well, but being in, how often do you get intimidated by production where you're like, I really have to like stick with this a little bit? Because it's easy to sometimes, I'm sure for artists, and you could probably speak to this, but when you hear something that's not, I don't want to say that it's not ear candy for you, but there's something there, and you kind of have to like really give it its time. How tough is that to write to it when like there's something there, but you just don't have it immediately?
It depends. I think it kind of depends on like how much space the beat is giving me. So, for example, like my pocket kind of typically is like 80 to 90, 95 BPM, right? So I know if you give me a beat in that BPM range, I can knock that out of my sleep. No question of that. But if you give me something that's faster than that or slower than that or more expansive, the thing that I'm trying to think about is that's a whole lot of space in which to pour language. And I just want to make sure that the things that I'm saying are like different from things I've said before, or, things that are sound in terms of people will get it when they hear it. And there's a little jewel in there that people will catch maybe a little bit later on. Right. So I think but what I've noticed is the more that I write, the less that intimidation is there. So it's kind of like, Steph Curry, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, you practice your jump shot until it's muscle memory. And then at that point, it's just all about responding to what's around you. And so like today I knocked out 5 joints with Boathouse in the studio.
Shout out Boathouse, man.
Okay.
Yeah, shout out Boathouse.
Yeah, we knocked out 5 joints. Have some pretty cool features. I'm crossing my fingers that we get for that. But yeah, like I think sometimes it's the intimidation and the tough, having the difficulty writing really just comes with overthinking the words too much. And a lot of times that'll knock you out of your groove. So then you just need to do or watch or listen to something like kind of what I was saying that's going to kind of take you out of that space. And then sometimes something will just pour out,
I like what you said about sort of filling the space with language. When was, because you're obviously a teacher in the game, you do your own thing. The bars are incredible on this tape.
Thank you.
And when did you first like fall in love with words like that?
Wow, that's dope. I've never had anybody ask, you get asked the when did you fall in love with hip hop question a lot, but the when did you fall in love with words is different. I would say the way, how kids have phones at at the table for Gabe, I know you know this. The kids have like the phones at the dinner table and all that. I used to be like that, but with books. So like from a young age, I used to and it used to drive my parents crazy because they're like, we're trying to teach you to socialize here, kid. Like human beings,
Were you one of those kids who's like reading a book while walking and you'd walk into walls? Like
I wasn't that bad. That's what phones did to me. Phones did that to me. Books did not do that to me. But yeah, so I mean, it was I think it was just kind of a thing where I naturally was drawn to words. I think if you really want to think about loving language, I think probably like I can't think of an exact moment, right? Like I think you're not really conscious of that until you get much older.
It's like a flower almost a little bit. You kind of it blossoms at a certain point. There's no
Yeah. So I would probably say I think when I was learning how to write poetry, at the same time, I was really studying Ghostface Killa's Supreme Clientele for the first time. And then like at that point, I think falling in love with words was like, you knew what the adjective lyrical translated as when it was in poetry. And then you kind of were able to draw similarities between, what makes great poetry and what makes great rapping. And Supreme Clientele, like it's the greatest game of Mad Libs ever played. You know what I mean? Like I love Ghostface, and I know that it's all abstract and beautiful, and it's just pouring out of them. But that was the first time where I really remember being like, damn, like there really is no limit to what we can do with this in the same way that there's no real limit to what a visual artist can do. You know, like the imagination is boundless. And so that kind of thing, I think, really reinforced that love of language. And the cool thing is, as I've gotten older, I kind of, you know, developed new appreciation for it over time, you know?
Yeah.
My rap is like ZD.
Facing me real TV. Watermelon chunks, strawberry kiwi.
I remember like the early days of like MSN and AOL chat spaces, and like hip-hop would be like, they're like, do you have any idea what he's saying? And I'm fronting. I'm like, yeah, it's like, it's clearly obvious. I'm like, I have no clue. Ghostface.
I get one of my favorite stories from teaching is, I don't know if you guys have ever heard Pete Rock, Ghostface, Raekwon, and Prodigy, The Game.
Yep.
So Ghostface's verse on there was kind of like the proto Supreme Clientele style, where it's just a nasty ass verse, but you have no idea what he's saying. And I had a student who was in my office once who was like, man, I could take any rap, I could take any poem, and I can use textual support to prove that I know what it's about, even if it's gibberish. And I gave him that verse from The Game, and he tried his best. He really gave it his all, and he failed so horribly. he just really, and he had like a whole PowerPoint presentation, like he was ready to go. And then, you know, from the minute he said the first bar, I was like, nah, that's not what Ghostface Killa meant.
What is it? 6.5 monkeys, 12 Nazis. I remember listening. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, I don't know what that means, but it sounds amazing. I don't, doesn't matter, but it sounds amazing.
His wallabies were spilling watermelon chunks. That's one of the greatest images in hip hop history. That's crazy. Yeah. So that was where the love of language came from, and you know, it's just been on from there since then.
Yeah, and I remember, and it's so funny because before you said Supreme Clientele, I remember I used to hang out with a teacher of mine after like I graduated, but and I was like and when he was like when Kappa is like, my repertoire is like USSR, and I was like, what the fuck is repertoire? Like I had no idea, and I remember, but it was like these words would cue questions. And I thought that was the coolest thing, because if you never heard of something, you thought it was really cool, you would just try to find out what it meant and try to piece the puzzle together. And, you know, and I'm glad that you're still in that realm where obviously there's a certain aspect of hip hop that doesn't play that game. So people still participating in that, like you referred to as like a Mad Lib. Yeah,
man. And it's fun. Like when you figure out how to do that style too, it's so fun. And then it's also something where it never leaves that bag of tricks. You can always dig there and, like, you know, and I think that's, and get the Ghostface bag, you know what I mean? Which is ill. And I think that's something I've heard in like a lot of these underground guys who are coming out, and this is all due respect to them because they're all unique and have their own style, but you can hear a lot of the Supreme Clientele era Ghostface in their flows.
Oh yeah,
the images they're using, and I think, you know, like what we were saying, is just.
Samuel, have you heard Supreme Clientele before?
I miss Ghostface. I grew up in the UK, so I miss Ghostface Killa. I'm sorry, guys.
These are the yeah. Go ahead.
No, who were you listening to in the UK?
50 Cent. That was the only thing that got across the pond. That was literally the first thing.
That's not even a bad choice, to be honest with you, considering the time frame. You know,
y'all weren't listening to grime or like UK hip hop.
It just wasn't like, the internet wasn't what it was. Like it wasn't. If it was going around, I wasn't getting it. You know. Okay. So I just remember my cousin playing Get Rich or Die Trying for the first time. And I literally like hoodwinked my babysitter into taking me to the CD store to buy that thing. And yeah, I used to listen to it and fall asleep. Like I was like 7 or something. Like,
fall asleep listening, like,
yeah,
Many Men.
What?
I used to
sleep, Many Men.
It has that twinkly beat to it. It's great to fall asleep to.
It's true. And in your defense, Sam, I did used to fall asleep listening to MOP albums. So, you know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. I'm shocked I didn't have more nightmares.
When you love something that much, you know, like falling asleep to it is the best way to honor it, yo.
Yep.
It's like, for me, it was like Sade, like, you know, anything like smooth R&B, Anita Baker. He was like, Annie up.
I did listen to WNUA a lot when I was a kid, though.
Fact.
So, 95.5, smooth jazz. That's what I used to fall asleep to. So I feel you, Gabe. I used to be right on that same level.
What about some, like you were mentioning, like some of the kids and them trying to break down bars? Do they ever stump you with some of the things that they present? They're like, hey, I want you to see if you can figure this out.
Nah, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that the work that I was doing, I was looking at the writing and like doing a lot of editing. So I kind of was able to understand where they were coming from. And I think part of that too is like when you're a writer and you're kind of tuned a little bit more attuned to that process, you can kind of understand what they're going for, even if they're not particularly there yet, right? Or even if the way that they're like presenting it is cliche. It's like, okay, this is a good idea. I understand that you're trying to show instead of tell. How can we show this in a different way than somebody else has already shown us, right? So like things like that, I think, I mean, my students have, if you want to talk about have stumped me or blown me away at like the lines they've come up with or like the flows they'll find or, you know, and this is in poetry and hip hop. I had a student last year at my job who, before the pandemic happened, she was like coming up to me rapping. She was 14 years old and she had like, she could have gone in the studio that day. She had the hook, she had the verses, she had the beat for it. It all sounded great. Like it could be a hit record. And I've been fortunate enough, I think, to everywhere I've gone in education, there's always been somebody like that. And I think sometimes young people like that, all they really need is the validation that they're pursuing something worthwhile. And once they get that validation, at that point, they really start to invest in the craft and they get even better. So, you know, yeah, I definitely have not encountered too many lines that like I didn't understand. It's more so been like, you know, kid will try a punchline and kind of flops instead of lands. You know what I mean?
There you go. Before we let you go, Def, I want to get into Father's Day is coming up this Sunday.
Yes.
I have the best Father's Day gift of all. I will be on an island in Puerto Rico. So
Fire.
I don't even care if they feed me breakfast or not. I already won. But we went through the worst gifts on Tuesday night that you could buy Father's Day. And I want to ask you if you bought any of these for your dad during your time alive. You could afford to buy something on your own. Have you bought a mug, a Father's Day mug?
No.
All right, good for you.
That's good. That's like dodging a bullet right there.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking, Sam. Slippers or flip-flops?
No.
All right, cool. Wallets?
No.
Cologne?
Definitely not.
Useless gadgets?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I feel like that's like, you know, you have the First Amendment is free speech, and then 1B is buying your father an expensive gadgets for Father's Day.
Here, Dad, here's another fidget spinner. That's what you wanted, right?
I know. Here's a clock that's also a radio.
I heard you like the radio. Here, you can have this clock, radio. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks. All right. Ties.
Yeah, probably. Just for the novelty of it, I have a feeling.
DVD, Blu-ray movies.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, stop buying those.
Now, you mean recently? I'm talking about like back when.
Oh yeah, no, okay, yeah. I'm just saying, like in the current, right now, like stop.
Oh, right now, nah, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't buy my dad.
Have you ever bought your dad boxers or underwear?
No. Nah.
All right, fair enough. What do you remember? Like, was Father's Day like a big thing in your guys' house when you were a kid? Your mom or someone else like made a big thing about it? You guys went out to breakfast or made breakfast or anything?
We usually did breakfast. My dad, when we were growing up, always made us breakfast on Sundays. It was always pancakes, and so like we would make him breakfast. When the original Pancake House in Oak Park was open, we used to
shout out the spot, yo.
Yeah, original Pancake House is fire, man. It's not out here anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, we used to usually go there. And then the things I always got him. So my dad is like a real movie buff, and like he's, you know how to make fun of people who have Criterion Collection subscriptions. So that's my father. And so I would like get him DVDs, or like, you know, I got him the French Connection one year, you know what I mean? Or I would get him books. And this is back when my father still read books for enjoyment. I believe he is fully transitioned into podcasts. Like I think he's done with books, and I think he's exclusively a podcast person now.
Nice.
I think that's it's a certain age, you know, it just happens naturally. There's nothing you can do about it. It's like puberty.
I totally screw my wife and my kids over because they know that anything hip hop like that comes out, like they're like, oh, he's gonna love this, and then they'd be like, they'll give it to me and like, oh, hey, we got you this hip hop book. I'm like, yeah, I already own it. And so they're like, what don't you own? I'm like, I buy everything when it comes out. Like, you can't buy me anything. It's like, stop buying stuff, especially around the holidays. Like, don't buy it.
That's funny. Stop buying stuff, especially around the holidays. That's like, it's rare that you hear that from a spouse.
It just because it shrinks the pool of options. So like, well, I don't know what else to get you. Here's a gift card. Go buy what you want. The new album out by Defcee, We Dress the City, with our names on Bandcamp. We'll put the link out on our social medias at Weekend Gabe and at Weekend at Gabe's, so that people can go support it and put down some hard-earned cash. All the limited vinyl that you guys are selling, that's sold out. So congratulations!
Sold out.
Thank you, man. All of our physicals, yeah, it's the first time. Sold out of CDs, sold out of vinyl.
Good for you, man. It's fantastic news.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm very fortunate for that to have happened. So shout out to everybody who's supported so far, who's continued to support. If you would like to continue to support, $10 for a digital copy on defcee.bandcamp.com. We will be up on DSPs very soon. So it'll be out there in a bit more, the $10 to spare for the music. But, you know, for those of you who have been supporting and investing, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. And I'll be back before the summer's out.
Absolutely.
All right, sounds good, man. Enjoy your time off for this summer. We look forward to seeing you soon. You know, whenever you get back, return to the stage, we'll definitely be out there supporting you. But in the meantime, in between time, enjoy your time off this summer. We'll catch up with you sometime soon, I bet.
All right, peace, Gabe, and nice to meet you, Sam. It was really
bro.
All right, Defcee joining us here on Weekend at Gabe's with Weekend Gabe and the real Sam Crane. We Dress the City with our names. It's out there. We'll put the link on our social.
Yeah, and shout out C Money Wave in the chat saying that the project is amazing. So you know, who says Chicago doesn't show love, man? Exactly. Who says?
We talked about this on Tuesday.
Yeah.
The Chicago hates you. That time is over.
It's over with.
Nothing but love on this show.
Love now.
Even across the city borders, we show love. So we're not even against that, Sam. Don't start. We're not going to do that tonight. Hey, I'm Weekend Gabe. Thanks for checking out this latest episode of Weekend at Gabe's. Click on any of the links swirling around my head, and also hit the subscribe button while you're here. Thanks for checking out us here on YouTube.